Hello and welcome to Press Party for our end of the year special, the best and worst stories of 2013 and how the media covered them. From the attack on our city on Marathon Monday to the glorious win of the Red Sox, many of our local top stories were in the national spotlight. But it's not always the most newsworthy stories that get the most attention. Miley Cyrus makes it to many of the most clicked on story lists. We've compiled a list of our best and most hilarious media fails of the year. Poor judgment, nudity, and swearing, it's all there. Thanks for tuning into Press Party. Our panel this week, Joe Battenfeld. He is the co-host of Boston Herald radio show Trending Now. Erica Mora joins us. She's a multimedia journalist at the Herald. And David Gerzoff Richard. He is a social media and marketing professor at Emerson College. Thank you all for joining us. What a year in Boston it has been, from the Boston bombings in April to the mayoral election last month. We've been busy. Let's take a look at our top local stories of 2013.
For Boston, it's not hard to pick out the biggest story of the year. The bombings on April 15th set our city on a long journey.
It's done. It's over. The marathon's over.
3 people died after 2 bombs exploded at the finish line of the Boston Marathon, and 264 people were injured. But the city came together with the rallying cry of Boston Strong.
It was never going to stop me. You know, from the moment I sat down with the tourniquet on my leg.
A manhunt followed in the week after, and the suspected bombers killed again. This time, only one of the brothers survived, and he was caught in a boat in Watertown.
I grabbed his arm, put handcuffs on him.
Big news in the city doesn't stop, and just a few months later, Whitey Bulger's trial began. Family members of Bulger's victims came forward and watched as the man who had escaped authorities his whole life was convicted on 11 murder charges.
I've been waiting 31 years for finally somebody to get convicted of killing my dad. And finally, it was said.
In the midst of this trial, another murder unfolded, and the suspect is New England Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez. The media camped out at his home for days, waiting for his arrest. Hernandez is the most Googled athlete of 2013.
An arrest warrant has been issued for New England Patriot Aaron Hernandez.
The city saw a new beginning when Mayor Menino's name wasn't on the ballot for the first time in 20 years, and Marty Walsh was elected in his spot.
I looked at Laurie and she goes, "Oh my God, you're going to be the mayor."
But the mayoral election may have been shadowed by the city's favorite baseball team.
Boston stronger than ever! The Red Sox are the World Series champions!
So all of these stories we have talked about on Press Party throughout the year. Obviously the biggest story this year, the Boston bombings in April. Joe, what's the biggest lesson that we as reporters learned here from covering the Boston bombings?
Well, I think the lesson we learned from the marathon bombings and from a lot of stories this year, sort of like the biggest media story of the year, has been the mistakes, really, that the media has made and the rush to judgment, relying on Twitter. Of course, remember the marathon bombings when they came out. There was a report, actually, the police said there was another bomb at the JFK library, which caused people to even panic even more because there could be bombs all over the place. So there was initial reporting on Twitter that is often wrong, and people go with it. And we kind of had to learn that lesson the hard way this year with a lot of stories, not just the marathon bombings. It was also the Washington Navy Yard shootings, too, where wrong stuff came out. So that's what we learned. But I mean, this is a story, obviously, that affected you personally, the marathon bombings, Katie. Yeah. You were right in the race.
Yeah, so I was running. Erica, you were there. Tell me how that has affected you as a reporter. I mean, for many of us, we had to take ourselves out of the reporter realm and experience it as a human being. So how has that been for you?
It's been one of the most challenging things I think I've ever faced. And, you know, I was still pretty new when it happened, and I was right there at the finish line. It was really difficult. And I grew up in Boston. It's my hometown. The marathon has been so extraordinary in my life. It's been such a moment of watching people just accomplish this great thing. And it was really hard to play reporter in such a tragic time. And not feel for people, but you couldn't help it. You had to feel for people at that moment, and you were engulfed in it. You know, I hit the ground at one point as well. So it's been really hard to separate myself as a reporter and also as a resident of Boston in that situation. And I think a lot of reporters have felt that way. Yeah. I saw a lot of reporters that I know cry that day, and I think it's just one of those things that will always stay with you and will change you as a reporter forever.
It really just took over our city. And as Joe, you were talking about on Twitter, tell me about how much this changed social media, how we report on social media, and what happened when we were instantly reporting things that weren't true.
Sure. Well, to Joe's point, that there were a lot of errors that came out of the social media reporting of the bombing. But I think if you take a step back, you'll see there's actually a lot of good and a lot of bad. The first 24 hours, I think, was actually really great. People got information very quickly. They knew what to do, where to go, that sort of thing. I think what happened is we sort of set the stage for having this, instantaneous reporting. I mean, that's really where we set the bar in the first 24 hours after the event. And there was this crush on the press to be the first ones to report it. That's where the mistakes happened, where that really great first 24 hours of coverage spilled over into the next couple of days. That's where people were going on to Reddit, and they pulled photos of guys.
Circle people's
faces.
The
guy,
and
the missing Indian, the student, I think from Brown University, who his name was all over the web, had nothing to do with it. And they found his body 10 days later. Right. That was on Reddit, I think, got spread around. But there were other things on Twitter that were partly the police put out there too, about them just, if people, they were like searching for other bombs. So everyone thought there was other bombs at the site still unexploded. Remember that day? There wasn't at all. So, and that kind of thing spread. And I still remember I was at the State House when it happened, but I still remember I went to the governor's office and I caught him coming out of the elevator. He was called back to the State House. I remember the expression on his face that I've never seen before. He was stricken, not in a bad way, but I mean, he was just like very serious, and I've never seen him like that before, and he knew how serious it was, and he went into his office, then took a call from the president right after that. And so there were a lot of, like I said, it's interesting because a lot of people were personally involved, reporters were personally involved. We don't usually see that in stories. So there's a lot of interesting and unique things about the story, and just the horrific nature of it. And it's still a huge story. We're reading about the recoveries of victims, and there's pictures that the Tsarnaev, stories about the Tsarnaevs are still very controversial.
It's going to be a huge story right up until this year's marathon. So that'll be really interesting to see that coverage. But switching gears a little bit to a story that was completely different, covering the Whitey Bulger trial. Whereas with the Boston bombings, we had so much video. We still are following up on all these stories. With the Whitey Bulger trial, we had zero video because we couldn't be in the courtroom. And that, I think, was one of the biggest takeaways from covering it, and why it didn't get as much coverage, because we couldn't see the drama unfolding in the courtroom. I'd say that it didn't get enough traditional coverage, but there were people in the courtroom that were tweeting, right? And we were able to see a lot of it's very different reporting. We were actually getting the play-by-play details of what was being said and what was happening. And you could actually build a Twitter feed with all these Boston reporters that were in there that were tweeting and get a really great picture of what was happening. Yeah, you saw a lot of store fights coming out of that. We were getting very inside details. I remember one tweet that kind of went viral was the defense attorney had purple nail polish on his clothes. And everyone was tweeting about that. I mean, what? That was true. And but really, like you mentioned, David, that's really, the story was on Twitter. That was really the only place you could find up to the second details of the case, because there's a camera ban in there. It's not like you can tweet out. So the best way for people to get out information was their Twitter accounts, and people were promoting their accounts on TV. It was almost like promos were done based on Twitter. So I was like, that was the first time that had happened. It really showed the power of Twitter right there, and how basically that's how people followed the story. I don't think it was as big a story because it wasn't on TV. That's why, and not to mention it was years ago that many of these things happened, and a lot of people don't even remember who Whitey Bulger was. But I think the lack of the TV coverage was big.
Not only that too, but there was, I was outside of the courthouse, and the other thing that fascinated me was that it was the same victims' families that were approaching the media. So it was the same stories, the same coverage, the same thoughts or quotes, I should say. So there was nothing new. Even sometimes in the Twitter world, a lot of the reporters were just able to tweet out the colored toenails of the defense attorney and get personal with the defense attorney. So I think it became very stale very fast.
Yeah, there's only a couple big moments in the trial where there were outbursts, but beyond that, it was pretty boring, I would say, through a lot of the trial, and that's why it wasn't as big a story. Yeah, now the other story that caught our attention that maybe shouldn't have, because it was very much sensationalized just because of the person
who is suspected of committing this murder, Aaron Hernandez. He became the most searched athlete on Google this year, and the murder is something we see every day in cities, and it wouldn't have gotten this coverage had it not been for him. Do you think we should have followed up, camped out at his house the way we did?
I think you had to. I mean, he's a big major sports star. He's, this young kid who just got a big contract. Everybody knows who he is, and the horrific nature of it. I mean, it just shows you how we hold up these athletes. Many people revere these athletes. They're supposed to be role models. And this was like, people were shocked at just how horrible this alleged crime was, that he could commit this, that he's like a young sports star. And it's the first real case we've seen of that, I think, of a sports star doing something like this in a long, long time.
Yeah, maybe
this was a national
comparative to Ray Lewis.
Yeah, no,
he was convicted or suspected.
Yeah, but this was like cold-blooded murder and of a kid. And it's, and like I said, the Patriots are the biggest thing in this town, the biggest sports team in this town. So that had a lot to do with it too. But you do make a good point about how there are lots of murders that don't get covered.
I do agree that we had to be there, but there was just over-the-top coverage. I mean, there was a helicopter
literally camping out on the lawn across the street.
Right, but there was also a helicopter that followed him from his house up to Gillette Stadium to then his lawyer's office in Boston. It was like O.J. Simpson all over again.
It was.
And it was intense, and I don't necessarily know how necessary that was for the coverage. I mean, we didn't see him. No one was able to talk to him. I remember going and trying to get a hold of the gas station attendant that didn't talk to him, but just to get somebody to talk to.
We all jumped on
Everybody
the guy
did.
that delivered an edible arrangement to his house. I remember this. I was in that mob, and I mean, does that look a little desperate to someone looking?
It does. We have to remember that he's an NFL football player, and the NFL is now America's sport. This is what we're tuning into. Sundays, Mondays, occasional Thursdays, sometimes Saturdays. Like, this is the national obsession sport. And when you have an athlete who is playing at the level, he wasn't just any football player. He was one of the top receivers for Tom Brady, right? So already he's at a national level. And when you mix all this together, it becomes a national story. And I don't know if you guys were feeling the pressure because you're with the Herald, but I'm sure that the local TV news affiliates were getting pressure from the national center saying, like, hey, can you get us footage on this?
Yeah,
there was huge pressure. Yeah, I mean, if you don't show up at that gas station, if you don't have the footage of him going to his lawyer's office, trust me, you will get yelled at by your news director if you work in TV news. So they had to do it. It's competition. Like you said, ESPN was covering it. All kinds of sports stations were covering it.
Well, thank you guys all for weighing in. Make sure to stay tuned to Press Party. Up next, the most viral stories of the year. Welcome back to Press Party. I'm Katie Eastman. What do Paul Walker, the Harlem Shake, and the Royal Baby all have in common? They all made the list of Google's top 10 trending searches of the year. We're taking a look at the most viral stories of 2013.
We've barely had time to keep up with the news.
While the Boston bombings topped many of the lists about the most clicked on stories, in those same top 10 lists you'll see Miley Cyrus and news about Kim Kardashian's new baby. The most retweeted tweet of 2013 was from Lea Michele, the star of the TV series Glee. She wrote, "Thank you all for helping me through this time with your enormous love and support. Corey will forever be in my heart," about her boyfriend and co-star Corey Monteith's fatal drug overdose. The most liked photo on Instagram was Justin Bieber with Will Smith.
Bieber's picture with close friend and mentor Will Smith received more than 1.5 million likes since it was posted on the site in August.
Google's list gives us a look at what people are looking up the most. On their events list, Boston Marathon is at the top, and the government shutdown is second. Did you click on Miley Cyrus or contribute to government shutdown searches? Maybe both. Reporting for Press Party, I'm Katie Eastman.
Okay, so on these top trending lists, yes, we did see we saw the Boston Marathon bombings a lot, but we also see Miley Cyrus. Erica, what does this say about what people click on and what we're feeding to our audience?
Well, we all know that I love Miley Cyrus. By that, I mean I actually don't. I think it's just, I think it's what people want and what people are interested in, and people are fascinated at looking at other people acting ridiculous. And they love to see that factor. And I think with Miley Cyrus, I think it's different because you have a young demographic who's interested and who has access to the internet, so they're reading that stuff. But then you also have parents who are like, what is going on right now? I need to look at what my kids are looking at and what they're watching. So I think Miley Cyrus probably is up there because of that. At least I hope that that's the reason, is that she's getting the double demographic. But people just want to see Miley Cyrus twerking on stage.
When you look at these top search results for the year, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. If you look at the checkout counters at any supermarket, the magazines there that we're pushing, they're all about celebrity. They're all about this what's hot and what's trending. Basically, what we're seeing is that evolution. It's still there at the checkout line, but it's definitely migrated onto the web, and that's what we're seeing here.
It's a celebrity culture now, totally, and it was funny because we were talking about this on Boston Herald Radio just a little while ago, and my co-host Adriana Cohen was saying, well, was Obamacare on the list? Was the NSA spying scandal on the list? I'm like, no, they were sorry about that. They weren't on the list. It was celebrity.
But I was happy to see that Nelson Mandela was on the list.
He finally cracked in. Yeah, at the very end there. But probably because it was fresh in people's minds. But it's definitely shows you a lot that people are interested in these celebrities, and I can't fault it really. Just because they're searching for something doesn't mean that's all they're doing on there. I think people are still paying attention to Obamacare and the NSA spying scandal. They just don't click on it as much or Google it as much. But I do think how can you beat Miley Cyrus, honestly? She had the year of all years.
She did have the year. But do we have a responsibility to not make those the front page stories on? I mean, it's different when you're looking at local compared to national, because when we look at the Boston Herald's top click stories, they are the Boston Marathon. They are local government elections. But when we look at national stories, CNN and USA Today's top clicks are from Miley Cyrus and those kinds of things. Should they not make those as available?
It just shows you how intelligent Boston Herald readers are, I guess.
I think it would be the same with Boston Globe.
No, it is true.
Any local
in Boston
compared
is a
to
different
national.
culture. We pay more attention to those things, too.
But from a marketing perspective, if you're on the sales and marketing side of a CNN.com or a USA Today, you have to understand and look at where your traffic's coming from. And I'm sure that there is a wall between editorial and business, but someone's whispering through the wall saying like, hey, we need more Miley Cyrus, right? Because that's what they want. They want those eyeballs to come into the site so they can sell more ads.
I do think that we as journalists do have a responsibility to make sure that Miley Cyrus perhaps isn't on there for too long, or maybe there needs to be a pushback. And I think as long as the pushback is there between editorial and business, then I think that we've done our job. But at the same token, we have to stay alive. And if that's where traffic is going and advertising dollars are going to be, that's just the nature of the business.
If it makes people look at the website and then look at other serious stories, that's fine too. But I do think that, you see new serious websites, the Washington Post and New York Times, they have celebrities right on their homepage as well. Top 10 faux pas or worst dressed celebrities. You see that all the time on these serious news websites because like you said, that they got someone saying, hey, we got to get people onto our website, and that's what draws people to their website.
They're seeing that's BuzzFeed's entire strategy right there.
Yeah, and they're very successful.
Get them in with LOL cats and other stuff.
That's how Huffington Post started.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching. What stories were most interesting to you in 2013? Weigh in on Twitter with the hashtag #PressParty. Up next, the best or maybe the worst media fails of the year. Welcome back to Press Party. I'm your host, Katie Eastman. There were a lot of serious reporting mistakes this year, but we're taking a step back from the serious and talking about the silly. Take a look.
We have new information now.
Epic bloopers, unbelievable mistakes top the charts for our best media fails of the year. Let's start in North Dakota, where one news anchor's first words on air were definitely memorable.
Gay. Good evening, I'm Van Tu, and he'll be joining the Weekend News team as my co-anchor.
Well, no, he won't. The station fired him right away, but he was given a second chance on the Today Show. Some people who really don't deserve a second chance, it's the crew over at KTVU who let this on air while reporting about the pilots of the Asiana plane crash in San Francisco.
KTVU has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao.
At least this local Providence reporter's information was right, but we're not sure if this is the best way to demonstrate it.
Should you come across a curious bear? According to experts, you should avoid direct eye contact with the bear. Don't run away. Instead, back off slowly. Wave your arms to let the animal know you're human. Don't yell. Stay quiet unless the bear attacks. Then scream and throw things at the bear.
If you really want to prove a point, get naked. Well, that's what one Canadian reporter did while interviewing the mayor about the legality of women going topless.
In Kelowna. What if I went walking down the street topless? Can you hold this for me, please?
Topless. I don't know. What are you doing?
That is commitment to a story. So which one wins Best Media Fail of 2013? You be the judge. For Press Party, I'm Katie Eastman.
All right, it's time to vote. Joe?
Asiana flight easily and tops my list.
Yeah, it's going to have to be the Asiana flight as well.
I hate to have to agree with everybody here, but I mean, that's the kind of thing where it's like such the Bart Simpson call-in. And you got to see it or realize it while you're reading it.
It was not only dumb, it was racially offensive too. So you had a twofer out of that, and the person, I think people did get fired out of that from that station, which is a rare thing in TV news. But I mean, even seeing it now, you like cringe. You're like, no, you have to stop. You must realize that they are phoning it. She kept going on. I know. It's very sad.
It is amazing. And they actually recently did a whole episode on local Koreans in the community as a way of apologizing,
like community service
and
or
making
something?
up for it.
I could see that.
So I don't know if their reputation is getting better.
Yeah, especially in San Francisco where it has a large Asian population. It had to be, I mean, their credibility took a massive hit everywhere, not only here, but not only in San Francisco, all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these things become web gems as well, right? They get passed around, and I think I saw it on at least 7 different Facebook feeds, Twitter. It blew up. It was amazing.
But the others were pretty good though. I mean, we don't want to give them short shrift.
Exactly.
I mean, taking off your shirt is like the classic. So she's a radio reporter, I think, but it was easily the.
She did get her point across.
What is it about Canada? Anyway, this is a big year for Canada doing stupid things. Yeah, really stupid things coming out of Canada.
And we oftentimes we give Canadians so much credit for being highbrow, and it's just
what
happened.
Apparently.
Okay, but we can't. I mean, we have had plenty of.
No, it's all Canada. It's all Canada.
We do nothing. We do nothing at all. And the bear reporter. I know the bear reporter. She's a she is a Providence reporter now. She has this title that made it. That went viral and made it all over.
She just looks crazy in the video.
And she's proud of it. She stands by her reporting.
She does.
So props to her.
I don't know. Props to her for going forward and being so like, well, I have to get the story. This is how I'm going to do it, and trying to be creative. But she does look crazy. Like, there's no other way to get around it.
And she's a friend of Jacqueline Cashman, I know. And I initially thought it was brilliant because I thought it was a parody. Then it turns out it actually wasn't a parody, that she was actually serious. So then I quickly downgraded it to big blunder, but it would have been a great TV news parody. I thought that's what it was. But apparently she just thought it was awesome.
I mean, I guess we know how to face a bear attack after watching that.
You do. You'll never forget.
When I am faced with a bear, I'm going to know exactly what to do, and I feel like I'll just start laughing because I'll think of that.
So she did a public service.
She did a public service.
And here I am. I thought all you had to do was outrun the guy next to you.
Yeah. That's what...
Yeah, that too.
But there's a lot of other ones you didn't even mention. It was a big year for media fail.
Mm-hmm. And that North Dakota, the first one we showed, the kid from North Dakota,
AJ.
his
AJ,
first job. I mean, that happens probably often, it just happened last week. I think another person in Dakota at the end of the newscast said, "Let's get the F out of here." And he got fired, and
Well, that North Dakota market, apparently it really attracting some big talent.
I wonder
there.
if it was the same station
pretty close
Ron
to Canada.
Burgundy went to. Ron Burgundy was on a North Dakota station.
Yeah,
Bismarck,
yeah.
North Dakota. Maybe it's all in there.
Similar to Iowa, maybe.
No, Iowa's a step up.
Way up. It's way above North.
Don't compare Iowa.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in for our last show of the year. Make sure you join us in 2 weeks for our first press party of 2014. Thanks for watching.